you want to be the general manager, Daniel Jones has got to be the quarterback, and you're going to have to work within the family confines of our family-owned business. I'm just telling you, this is what's going on. And Joe Schoen did fine yesterday. He's bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and he's ready and raring to go, and he's going to do everything he possibly can to get this thing straightened out. But you're going to have to deal with the way the Giants run their business. And he'll have to get used to that, and he'll have to placate and deal with both John Mara and Chris Mara and, everybody else that's over there that he decides to keep. The big question for me would be, and I know that they kind of touched a little bit on this, is that he doesn't really know who all the scouts are. Most of the scouting has already been done leading into the draft. Now what comes is the combine and meeting these players and finding out who these players are and what type of players do they want to bring in here from the draft. And, that's where he can make his biggest mark. And we all know that. And even he said that yesterday. So that's exactly what I expect. But they believe they're going to be competitive because they're keeping their quarterback. This is you're keeping the quarterback. I know you don't like that. But I think also John Mara was extremely honest when he said we've screwed this kid up. And I agree with him wholeheartedly, 100%. That one of the reasons that Josh Allen is as good as he is, Patrick Mahomes is as good as he is because they are in structured environments with top quality head coaches, great general managers that brought players in around them, and they've stayed in the same offense since they got into the NFL. And now here we go again, Daniel Jones getting ready to go into – and by the way, they're going to have to pick up his fifth-year option this offseason at some point here. And at the end of the day, to me – this is the guy. They're going to try to resurrect him, and hopefully they get the right coach in here and the right system in here, and somehow they turn the infection that is the New York Giants football building. There's like an infection over there,
sure,
and it needs a dousing is what it needs, and this is hopefully what this 42-year-old guy who's never been in this position before is going to be asked to do.
Well, I want to ask you about the Daniel Jones thing, because this is something we talked about with the Pat Shurmur, Dave Gettleman era, is we felt like John Mara told them Eli is going to be the quarterback.
Yeah, it feels a lot that way.
Now, you think the same thing's going on here?
100%.
But, all right, so if Joe Schoen goes through his pre-draft evaluations of everybody and falls in love with a quarterback, and with one of the first two first-round picks that they have, top 10 picks of that.
They'll take them.
Okay, so that's the thing I'm worried about, though, is you're telling me that John Mara's telling Joe Schoen that Daniel Jones has got to be the quarterback. Then does that mean that...
I think right now he's saying you have the quarterback in-house, and we like the quarterback, and we think he's good, and we think we've really hurt him over the last 3 years with the decisions that we've made.
But you don't think if Joe Schoen said, hey, I really love Malik Willis, or I really love Kenny Pickett, or I really love whomever else, that John Mara's going to say, no, I disagree with that, and I don't believe that we're going to go in that direction because we've got Daniel Jones here. That can't happen. That can't happen.
Look,
first of all, why even take the job if you're Joe Schoen?
Are you overly excited about any of these quarterbacks that are coming out?
No,
I don't know yet.
I'm talking hypothetically,
though.
I'm
trying to give you a hypothetical back, saying, are you excited about any of the quarterbacks coming out? Where your picks land? Who's sitting there? What are these players like? It sounded to me like he talked about high character players that are going to come in here, are going to be selfless. It's easier said than done. I know that's what they try to do out in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
And they've done a really good job of building that roster. They just have had problems at the quarterback position, in which, for 4 straight years, they've had 4 different quarterbacks. And I just feel like for those people who know Daniel Jones over there at the Giants, I think they legitimately really like the kid. And they like what he brings to the table. They like his work ethic. They like his character. They like his practice habits. But the problem is that it's been so much turmoil around him that they believe that they've affected his ability to be a consistent top-end performer.
Okay.
And now they want to try over again because right at the moment, right now as we sit here, they don't have an alternative.
No, they don't, but you also have 2 top 10 picks. You got a whole offseason. I know that the cap situation is a problem for them that Joe Schoen's got to figure out, but it's not as if there aren't going to be other opportunities to do a different thing at that position. But when you've got cap problems and you've got a guy in a rookie deal, it is a nice luxury to have. The other issue I had that I brought up was it was the ESPN Giants beat reporter Jordan Rannon asked the question about, do you have full autonomy over the hiring of the coach? And Joe Schoen essentially said no. He goes, this is a collaborative effort. He goes, because there are some reports out there that you guys think that you got two different thoughts. And he goes, if I've got one thought and, the owners have another thought, then, we'll work it out and try to find the best guy. But, I mean.
So just so you know, here's a 42-year-old guy. He's been an assistant. He's been a lifer in the NFL. And he has an opportunity to become the general manager of the New York Giants. You will take the middle seat in the back row of the plane. You will fly on the wing. You will get here, and you will try to impress your new bosses, and you will tell them exactly what they want to hear in order for you to get the job. I'm sorry. This is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for this young man, and he went for it. And part of going for it is also showing that you're a good teammate, that you are going to work within the structure and the body of the franchise. That's the way it is. That's the way it works. And when I listened to John Mara yesterday, look, it pains him to have to continue to do this. And I was thinking of like Pat Shurmur. I was thinking of Joe Judge yesterday. I was thinking of Ben McAdoo. And I was thinking about those guys if they watched this press conference and saw, John Mara standing there and sitting there with Steve Tisch. And probably all three of those guys going, here they go again. Like this place will never get right. And then, of course, you have Bill Parcells, who's telling Joe Schoen, this is the greatest job in the world.
Well, it can't be the greatest job in the world if you can't make the decisions you want to make.
Well, that's the point. So I think he will have his say is going to be, it's going to be the loudest voice in the room. And he'll say, this is what I don't know why you would hire a guy and not ask him to be the guy that's going to lead you out of this mess that you've been in for the last 6
I thought that's what we were doing here. I thought that was it.
Yeah, well, I hope that is the case. And we won't. And look, we're not going to know anything about this guy until we start seeing who he lops off the roster.
Sure.
And who he ends up drafting, and then who he ends up signing in free agency. So we're not going to really know anything until all of those parts start moving. We'll also find out something about him with the coach that they hire. And I don't know if it's going to be Daboll. I don't.
Yeah, I saw Pat Leonard of the Daily News put out there that Daboll is the favorite in Miami now, and that seems likely, but I don't know if that's something that is going to happen or not. But then if that were the case and Brian Daboll did go to the Dolphins, then that would change the Giants to the two candidates that were former head coaches before that are at the top of their list, in Dan Quinn and Brian Flores.
And the other thing is Patrick Graham's going to get an interview, I believe, today. Or maybe yesterday.
I think it was yesterday, and Flores is today. Yeah.
All right, so these guys are all going to come in here, and the first question is, can you live with this quarterback? Because if you can't, then don't come here.
God, I hate that, though, man. I hate it.
The other thing, too, is when I'm interviewing these coaches, I swear to God, I'm taking them through all four of the divisional round games, and I'm taking them through every single football situation that took place in all of these games.
No, I know. I've heard you mention it.
And I want to know what the hell they're going to do on the sideline and how they're going to decide how to make these quick decisions, and have they ever done this before? And this is why I do kind of like a head coach that has been down this road before.
Yeah,
because there's so much that goes into just being the head coach.
I mean, I just don't. How could you sit here and declare, if you're the Giants, that Daniel Jones has to be the guy next year? I just don't understand at this point in the offseason.
That doesn't mean so. Does that mean I have to look at all the contracts. I have to look at all the potential free agents, and I have to look at all of what the possibilities are to bring somebody in here that's, number one, competent if Daniel Jones gets hurt again, if he ends up being your starting quarterback.
Sure.
All right, so, is that the Andy Daltons of the world? Could be Mitch Trubisky, who was up there in Buffalo with this guy, Shane. So could it be somebody like that? Yeah, I would think it's going to be going down that road, depending on how much that guy is going to cost. I'm not right now. They're all in on Daniel Jones right now. That doesn't mean 2 months from now that could change. I think that they like this young man. They think that he has a big upside. If I told you that Daniel Jones, this is not probably going to excite you, but just to get him to the level of where Ryan Tannehill is. Would that excite you?
Well, the rest of the team's got to be as good as the Titans for me to get excited about that. The offensive and defensive lines have to be as good as they have. You have to have an MVP candidate at running back. You've got to have a head coach who was one of the best in the league. So no, not with what the Giants currently have, no.
I'm just saying.
The reason why Ryan Tannehill is successful is because he's got one of the best wide receivers in football, too, on top of it, A.J.
Just
Brown.
so you know, he's like 30-13 as the starting quarterback of the Titans. Yes, the Titans are a really good team, and they support their okay, Midland, kind of above-average quarterback. Mm-hmm. Can Daniel Jones become an above-average quarterback? I'm not saying he's going to become Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, or Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. But can he become a top 15 quarterback is the question. And then what is the alternative if it's not him? Is it maybe it's this kid from Pittsburgh? Maybe it's the kid from Liberty. I don't know yet. I don't know what they see, but it doesn't sound like to me that they're thinking quarterback. But then again, this whole thing could be a smokescreen.
Yeah, another thing I really didn't like yesterday with John Mara was the direct answer about Deshaun Watson, even if he felt that way. And I'll give you an example why. So Steve Cohen, when he was doing interviews around the hiring of Billy Epler and Buck Showalter, he actually was out there, the Mets owner, and talking to people. He was even on this radio station, and people was trying to ask him about, are you going to re-sign Baez? What are you going to do about this guy? What do you think? And he's like, I'm going to leave the baseball decisions up to my baseball people. He kept saying that. He wasn't, he's like, we like this guy. We liked him when he was here, but ultimately I'm leaving the baseball decisions up to this guy. And actually, I appreciated that, especially with a guy who is known to be an overbearing owner. So when John Maras asked this question about Deshaun Watson, he goes, we are not trading for Deshaun Watson, and just answers the question. When the stigma around the organization is that there's too much family involvement, I thought that was a bad look.
Yep.
Even if you had this conversation with Joe Schoen before, today's his day to be the new general, the new sheriff in town. Let him say that. At least give us a perception that he's in charge.
That's right. Well,
he's not, is what you're telling
me. John Maras, he's trying to get the right guy in here to bring a fresh kind of perspective to things. I appreciate his honesty yesterday. Nobody in their right mind thought that the Giants would be trading for Deshaun Watson. I was actually surprised he said his name because he's with another team.
Yeah, no,
and usually these guys, if they start talking about other players on other teams, they end up getting fined.
And it's not about it actually being a reality. It's about letting the guy who's supposed to be making the personnel decisions answer the questions.
Right.
It's like if you're the owner, be like, listen, you just hired the general manager. Let him answer it. I don't know. I just thought it was strange, especially when the perception is, and probably the reality is, that there's too much of that going on in that organization to begin with.
Right. And, we'll also find out, as of right now, Daniel Jones is the guy. Everybody seems to like him. Sounds like Joe Schoen is going to want him and everything else. We'll know by May 2nd how they really feel about Daniel Jones. Because that's the time, that they're going to have to pick up the 5th-year option on his rookie contract.
Okay.
So Daniel Jones will know going into his 4th year whether or not he has a guaranteed 5th year.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's May 2nd is the date when that has to happen. I haven't heard anything as to whether or not they will pick it up yet or not. But these are discussions that I'm sure are ongoing, and they have to figure it out. What the other thing they could do is they could let Daniel Jones play his 4th year out, and then they could tag him. At the end, the tag number will be bigger than his 5th-year option.
Yeah, you'd be paying
you could do that, but
an insane amount of money.
But the point being is if he goes out there and has a really good year and somehow is unlocked and stays healthy, plays 17 games, throws 35 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and throws for 4,300 yards and leads the Giants to either the NFC East division title or a wild card, you're guess what? You're definitely tagging him if you didn't put the 5th-year option on him.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.